Donald Trump has blown up yet another deal with Iran. And before you start worrying too much, this was a deal that never really existed in the first place. It was just one of the many, many fake deals this administration has announced with great fanfare and absolutely nothing to back it up. But it is very clear why this particular deal has now fallen apart. There are two obvious reasons. The first is Israel's relentless and ongoing strikes on southern Lebanon. The second is Donald Trump's posting habit, a posting habit that sent this deal into a tailspin and then sent Trump himself into a full meltdown on Truth Social. We are going to get into all of it. But first, I want to start with what Senator Jon Ossoff had to say just yesterday about Donald Trump's war. Not only the complete failure to negotiate a real end to it, but the failure of how it started in the first place and why a lot more Democrats need to start speaking up exactly the way John does.
This war in Iran is the worst foreign policy blunder since Iraq. And just like the Iraq War, it's a war built on lies. Let's just update the record. On day one of the war, day one, the president said it was running ahead of schedule. On day 10, he said it was very complete. Day 21, getting very close. Day 32, leaving very soon. On day 39, the President of the United States said a whole civilization will die tonight. And on the next day, day 40, he declared total and complete victory. Day 67, great progress. Day 79, the clock is ticking. Today is day 92. And on day 92, Iran's ballistic missiles and drones have not been destroyed. The Strait of Hormuz, which was open before the war, is still closed. The regime is intact, along with its stockpile of highly enriched uranium. A stockpile Iran only built after President Trump shredded President Obama's Iran deal. You remember that?
We will get to that before we dive into how Trump blew up his own deal and why he is now completely losing it over the fallout. This is the exact message that every single Democrat should be delivering when it comes to Donald Trump's war. It is a failure, and he is failing to bring it to an end, which should surprise absolutely nobody. Donald Trump simply cannot negotiate. And let us not forget why. Cast your mind back to that rescue mission carried out for the downed Air Force pilots. Donald Trump was physically removed from the room by his own military advisors because he was panicking and making things worse. Now ask yourself, does that sound like a man who has the mental steadiness, the sharpness of mind, and the patience required to sit across the table and negotiate a complex international deal? Of course not. Donald Trump has no clear goal. He has no strategy. He has no plan. And even he, the very man who has been endlessly bragging about what a brilliant idea this war was, how successful it has been, and how everyone supposedly loves it, has openly admitted that it was a mistake from the very beginning.
Shouldn't have been there in the first place, by the way, and shouldn't have been in Iran. But Iran has the capability. If we didn't hit them with the B-2 bombers 9 months ago, they would have a nuclear weapon right now. And it would be a whole different story. Probably would have used it. You probably wouldn't have had you wouldn't have had Israel, but you probably wouldn't have had a Middle East. And then where do they go from there?
Donald Trump himself said we should not have gone into Iran. But then, in the very same breath, he turned around and pointed to a nuclear threat that does not really exist, and then went on to post complete misinformation. He claimed that CNN reported his Iran nuclear deal does not mention nuclear issues at all, when in reality, the agreement states clearly that Iran will not be permitted to develop a nuclear weapon, and then goes on in significant and detailed length to cover various other nuclear-related matters. In fact, that is the core of the entire agreement. That is what most of it is about. Trump then took a swipe at CNN, calling them fake news, a ratings disaster, and suggested that even under new ownership, things are unlikely to improve. So let us break down what Trump is actually saying here. He admits we never should have gone into Iran in the first place. The only justification he has ever offered is that Iran is supposedly just seconds away from building a nuclear weapon, the same claim Benjamin Netanyahu has been making for decades. And it is not exactly hard to see how the dots connect. Trump gets into office, develops a close relationship with Netanyahu, receives the full backing of the Israel lobby, and then takes the country to war on their behalf. Really not that complicated when you follow the money. Now Trump is accusing CNN of misrepresenting his so-called deal, insisting it is a great deal and that nuclear issues are at the heart of it. But here is the reality, there is no deal. The deal no longer exists. Because of Trump's own erratic posting, his public meltdowns, and Israel's continued military strikes, Iran has once again walked away from the table. And what does all of this lead Donald Trump to do? Completely fall apart on Truth Social. Donald Trump's 1 a.m. war boast has blown up directly in his face. The president has been pushing hard for a deal, but Iran has now suspended talks to end the war. Despite Donald Trump's overnight claims that Iran was desperately eager to reach an agreement, Iran has halted negotiations with the United States over Israel's ongoing bombing campaign in Lebanon. The semi-official Iranian news agency Tasnim reported this latest setback on Monday. Iran's position was clear, given that Israel has continued its strikes in Lebanon and given that a halt to those attacks in Lebanon was one of Iran's stated conditions for any ceasefire agreement. That condition has now been violated on every front. And it is worth noting, Israel has also been striking Iran directly. As a result, Iran's negotiating team has officially suspended all talks and communications through mediators. Iran has consistently made its position known. Any willingness to reach a peace agreement with the United States was directly tied to an end to Israel's military operations. Operations that, let's be honest, amount to a genocide in Lebanon and in Gaza. And yet, just after 1 o'clock in the morning Eastern Time, President Trump was posting on Truth Social, bragging that Iran really wants to make a deal and that it will be a great one for the United States and its allies. He then went on to attack Democrats and certain Republicans, accusing them of making negotiations harder by speaking out against the war. He closed his post by telling everyone to just sit back, relax, and trust that it will all work out in the end. It always does, Trump claimed. Meanwhile, the Israeli government ordered fresh strikes on the southern suburbs of Beirut on Monday, following its ground forces pushing deeper into Lebanon over the weekend. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Defense Minister Israel Katz released a statement claiming the strikes targeted what they called terrorist targets in Beirut. Right, because we have never heard that exact justification used to cover up civilian destruction before. Israel accused Hezbollah of violating the Lebanon ceasefire through attacks on Israeli cities and stated it had directed the IDF to strike the Dahia quarter of Beirut in response. Iran's foreign minister responded on Monday with a very direct message. The ceasefire between the U.S. and Iran is, without any question, a ceasefire across all fronts. That includes Lebanon. A violation on one front is a violation of the entire ceasefire. And the United States and Israel will be held responsible for the consequences of any violation. Now, Netanyahu is, to put it mildly, a very close ally of Trump, and the two countries jointly launched the initial strikes against Iran back at the end of February. But as Trump now tries to wrap up a war that has dragged on for more than 3 months, that relationship with Israel is beginning to show real strain. In early April, Trump confirmed that he had urged Netanyahu to pull back Israel's strikes on Lebanon as Trump was trying to hold a ceasefire agreement with Iran together. Trump said Netanyahu was going to keep things relatively quiet this time around. But according to multiple reports since the war began, Israel has raised numerous concerns as the United States has gotten closer to reaching what they consider a bad deal with Iran. And so the conclusion is pretty obvious. Israel is actively trying to blow up the deal. Not only did Israel drag us into this war in the first place, but now they are working to keep us stuck in it. A war that is killing innocent people abroad, killing Americans abroad. A war that is costing hundreds of billions of dollars. And this is supposed to be our greatest ally. They pull us into a war. They keep us in that war. A war fought on their behalf. A war built on a lie. And yet we keep hearing, greatest ally in the world.
While the Financial Times reports, quote, Pete Hegseth's broker looked to buy defense fund before Iran attack. Y'all remember they promised to drain the swamp? Instead, this is the most corrupt administration of all time, and everybody knows it. Everybody knows it. While Americans pay more and get less, while our insurance premiums skyrocket and hospitals close down services, while American service members are wounded and killed in action, the first family is raking in billions of dollars. Just listen to this. Last September, the president of Kazakhstan calls Donald Trump and says he wants to grant tungsten mining rights to an American company. And the very next month, Eric and Don Jr. get a stake in the American company pursuing the mining deal. 6 days later, 6 days after Prince Eric and Prince Don get their stake, Kazakhstan announces this company will get, quote, the largest known undeveloped tungsten resource in the world. A few more weeks go by. And then the U.S. government, run by their father, sets aside $1.6 billion of your tax dollars to fund and finance their mining project in Kazakhstan. All this while you pay more for gas, for groceries, for healthcare. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. Billions from foreign princes and oligarchs. Sweetheart real estate deals all over the world, taxpayer funding to Trump-backed companies. And listen, here's the bottom line. If you're involved in any of this, next year you'll be raising your right hand and swearing to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God, in front of the United States Congress.
It just does not look that way. It really does not. Again and again, it does not look that way. What it looks like is that we are spending enormous amounts of money on them and then spending even more money fighting wars for them. And that is what this war has largely come down to. Corruption. Corruption that Jon Ossoff laid out clearly in a clip I want to get to in just a moment, because money is the driving force behind all of it. But before that, I also just want to point out that Donald Trump's continued posting meltdowns are, I would not say equally as damaging as Israel violating the ceasefire, but they are absolutely a serious problem in their own right. It has gotten so bad that U.S. officials have privately told Iranian counterparts to just ignore Trump's posts, that it is all for show, all noise for the media, all bluster with no substance behind it, which makes it genuinely baffling that any mainstream media outlet still treats Donald Trump's social media posts as something approaching the truth. That is simply not how to cover it. And it is not how we cover it on this show, because the truth is, this is about money. This is about corruption. And Senator Ossoff called that out perfectly right here. The real story of this war is the story of Donald Trump using it to increase his personal wealth by billions of dollars. His sons doing exactly the same thing through government defense contracts. Pete Hegseth trying to squeeze in some last-minute stock trading on top of it all. That is what this war is truly about. That is the only honest way to cover it. And that is exactly what we are going to keep doing right here on this show. If you want to support that work, as always, hit that subscribe button and leave a like on this video. If you made it all the way to the end, drop a blue heart in the comments. And if you want to go one step further in supporting the show, head over to Spotify, find The Jack Coachella Show, and leave a 5-star rating on the podcast. Keep on fighting, everyone. Do not let them silence you. And until next time, I'll see you soon.